the man in the arena fits so well right here. Although, hey, you didn't get on that podium, you were in the arena.
You were in the arena.
You were doing something that almost every other human in the world wasn't doing. Mm-hmm. And you've already won in a sense. Welcome to The Growth Project, a podcast brought to you by AMPLOS. Dr. Drew Brannon, joined by Dr. Gabby Caviedes. Gabby, it is good to be talking about the Olympics at least one more time, because then we have to wait a long time before we can do it again, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, here we are again, Winter Olympics.
So we're going to wrap up the recently concluded Winter Olympics, knowing that it's going to be a few years before we can talk Olympics again. So we feel like I need to get this one in. And, it's kind of cool to think about when we did this a couple weeks ago, I guess, we were talking about the fact that like the Olympics always delivers. Yeah. Always delivers. And now here we are on the other side of it, and it did exactly what we said it would do. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Confessions here. How much tuning in to the Olympics did you actually do?
Not as much as I wish I had.
Okay. Good answer. Good answer. Yeah. Which events did you actually see?
I saw some speed skating events, and I watched some of the figure skating events. The event with, I'm going to butcher this, but help me remember the name. They have the...
Curling?
Is it curling? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So curling.
Curling.
Yeah. So I also saw curling, which I've never watched curling before. And it was fascinating to learn a little bit more about it.
Absolutely fascinating. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that was pretty much my snippet of the Winter Olympics.
Well, you saw some good stuff and probably saw plenty of highlights as well.
Yes.
That made you feel like you were actually watching the events.
Yes.
I would say I saw all of those. Saw some bobsledding, which is always fun. A little bit of hockey, although I did not see the gold medal game that we're going to get into in full, but I certainly saw the highlights. And then, it just so happened that when I was cutting on the Olympics, saw some biathlon more than once. Are you familiar with biathlon?
No.
Okay. Well, then before we get to anything else here, we got to get this straight. So this is the combination of cross-country skiing and shooting.
I saw some clips of this actually on social media, and I was fascinated by it. Yeah.
It is like, I'd love to know the history of how those two came together. Yeah.
How did these two compare?
But it's a fascinating event to watch. And and just as we get into it today, why are we talking about the Olympics again? And I think, as people who work really, really closely in the realm of all things high performance, that's exactly what the Olympics are. Yeah. This is a multi-week competition of the people that are the best in the world at what they do, where the stakes are incredibly high. And these folks have spent multiple years investing their life in the pursuit of a dream. Mm-hmm. And they've worked, they've made sacrifices that we'll never know. And it all comes down to a series of days and a very few number of opportunities, finite number of opportunities to fulfill a dream. So from us, those of us that work in the realm of psychology, it's a fascinating sandbox to pay attention.
It is. Yeah. You can see so many facets of the work that we do come to life, and areas where people just aren't really paying much attention to how the mental side impacts these performances. And then you get this massive spotlight on the Olympics, and so much comes to light, and through what we see, but also what we hear the athletes talk about in their interviews. And it's a great experience every few years to be able to reflect on and be involved with.
Right. So just, let's try to put it, and this will not do it justice at all, so I don't want to pretend like it is, but just a slight attempt to put this into context. And I'll use the example of, like, let's imagine you work in the world of sales. And, inevitably, what must you do to be successful in sales? You have to go conduct meetings and try to sell your product or your service, whatever it might be. And without those meetings, where you're sitting across from a customer or whoever it might be, you can't do your job. And so I think for a lot of people that work in that realm, there's some degree of stress, anxiety that associated with those meetings. Imagine a world where you had one meeting every 4 years.
Yeah. And that's all you get to prove yourself.
Yeah. And there would be some other like meeting type things, other types of competition, but it's really about that. Mm-hmm. It's really about that meeting. And you think about the stress that you would feel and the pressure you would feel and the way you would, right or wrong, good or bad, the way you would really measure yourself off of how it went.
Right.
And how it would stick with you for a very, very long time, whether it be a highlight of like celebration or a really, really painful memory.
Right.
So that's why the Olympics are so significant. So with that, what are some highlight? Like, what are a couple of things we want to touch on and then kind of break down, Gabby?
Yeah, well, I think we start with the most recent that seems to be currently blowing up in the media, which is Team USA, both men's and women's hockey, securing the gold.
Yeah, incredible. And, you know, if for our listeners, if you're not aware, although the U.S. does dominate the world in a number of sports, hockey has never been one of those.
No, hockey has not been our strong suit, but it seems like we might be changing the narrative a little bit so. There.
So, Gabby, give us a little history on, let's start with the men's side. Like, why was that such a significant victory yesterday?
Yeah, it was so significant because the last USA gold medal in hockey was in 1980.
You heard that correctly.
Yes, 1980. What is that, over 40 years ago?
That's, yes, a long time
40
ago.
Years ago. It was, you know, done by the Miracle on Ice team, and it's kind of been this legacy, if you will, that we've been trying to get back to. Canada has kind of dominated the world of hockey, and so it's been this pursuit of our U.S. men's hockey team to try to redeem, you know, our legacy and our image within that realm. And they did it this year. So they went in there kind of as the underdogs. I didn't see it firsthand, but I've seen the highlights and recaps, and what a game put on by the U.S. team and Canada's team. But ultimately, you know, we were able to redeem that gold.
Right. Yeah. If you haven't seen the clip of that goal in overtime,
oh my gosh,
you need to go watch that. I got chills the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
And then seeing the celebration and thinking about the magnitude of that moment. And, you know, there's more than one, but there's one in particular kind of psychological, I think, component of this that I want to talk about here for a moment. And that is, I'm always very curious about the relationship that people have between evidence and confidence. And, you know, in a perfect world, we would generate lots of our confidence from easily accessible, recent history type evidence.
Right.
Oh, I just did this about a week or so ago. How do I know that I can do it today? Why and how can I be confident in my ability to deliver today? Well, I just did it a week ago. And it's not that difficult to have confidence when you have recent history type evidence.
Right.
So then let's take that back to what you just said about the U.S. and going into these games. Where were they drawing their confidence from? You know, like you tell me. So I know you didn't no personal conversations here.
No personal conversations.
You be the performance consultant here for a moment, and like, where do you think they drew confidence that they could go get this done? Yeah.
Well, you know, it's kind of the opposite of what you're speaking of here. Is that so long had passed since there was that belief in like, oh, we can do this. So now we got to find confidence somewhere else. We got to look to another source. And from everything I've seen, this team of players were very bonded. They really trusted each other. They knew that they all came from great playing histories and trusted their abilities. So I think that the culture they formed on that team became their confidence, as opposed to
trusting in each other.
Yeah.
And so you think about it this way, obviously, because the U.S. had not won a gold in hockey since 1980, none of the former gold medal winners were playing on this team. Pretty confident their time had come and gone. So there was not a single guy on this team who could step on that ice and say, I've done this before. Right. However, any first that any of us ever accomplishes in life requires us to transfer some confidence. And now there's a huge difference between being in a place where, hey, I know I have what it takes to get like, I believe I can do this, compared to I've seen myself do this before. But you'll never see yourself do anything if you don't first believe that you have what it takes to accomplish whatever the goal might be. And I agree with you. I think they had, from what I could tell and what I read about and saw, high degrees of chemistry within the team. And these guys are pros, right? So they play in the NHL, they play at the highest level. These are the same people they're playing against night in and night out in the NHL.
Right.
So certainly you've got to be able to kind of take a step back and realize, okay, although their jersey says Canada and mine says USA, I do this all the time.
Yeah.
So how do you find generalizability in your performance domain that says, okay, I'm familiar with this. This is no different from what we've done before. We know we're meant for this. Like, we know we have what it takes. I think that's probably a lot of what they had to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it came down to, like you said, kind of that belief, but also the trust among the team, and then the preparation behind it, and really, trusting in their preparation and their processes out there on the ice. And it's a different type of confidence going in there than pulling from past experiences.
It is. And I'll tell you, Gabby, another thing I know these guys had going for them is one of the most powerful words that I think exists in the English language, and that's the word enough. I don't know if I have no clue if this became any type of rally cry for them, but I can promise you they thought about it, of the fact that, like, hey, this had gone on long enough. Mm-hmm. The gap between the U.S. winning gold in 1980 and us winning gold in 2020, like, it had gone on plenty long enough. Mm-hmm. We talked about this part. You're not going to like this part of the discussion. We talked about this, we being Georgia, before the SEC championship game this year against your alma mater, the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a single guy on our roster who had beaten Alabama before.
Yeah.
And we just talked about the fact, we had never beaten Alabama in an SEC championship game ever. We had never done that.
Right.
So we just talked about the fact that, like, this had gone on long enough. We had waited long enough. We had put up with more than enough. Mm-hmm. And I got to think that inside that locker room, that was a sentiment as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's time to make a change, to shake up the narrative, change the narrative.
Right.
And that's a whole other piece of this. Narratives are so powerful. What you are telling yourself, the story you're telling yourself, is so powerful. So if they had gone in there with the story of, well, we haven't won gold since 1980, that's it. Like, we're probably never going to win gold again.
Yeah, right.
Canada is just this powerhouse, and we're never going to knock them off that pedestal. And that mentality would have likely produced a totally different outcome.
For sure. It's a good reminder, too, to your point there, that, brands don't win games, players do.
Right.
And the brand of Canadian hockey, far superior to the brand of U.S. hockey. Yeah. It's their sport, and that's what people refer to it as. And if it was a matter of logos and brands and history being the deciding factor of the outcomes in competitions, then there's no need to even fly over to Italy.
Right.
And so I think it's a great example too, of just how, players win games, not brands. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the men did their thing in a pretty dramatic fashion. Yeah. So did the women, although it wasn't quite like, hey, we thought they were going to get it done, right? So talk about that.
Yeah. Well, thought they were going to get it done is a, hopefully that's what we were all going in there thinking. They didn't last Olympics. They won the silver. So they were strong contenders going into this year's Olympics for sure. I think the hope was always there, like, hey, this is the year. Silver was good, but we're coming back. We want more. Right. We were so close, and we'll get into that in the second part of today's podcast. But I think that they came in, they knew they were talented, they knew they could get there. Now it's just a matter of finishing, seeing it all the way through, and they did. They walked away with the gold as well, and I think that's huge for hockey, USA hockey, to bring home both gold medals there.
It's incredible.
It's incredible.
We're a hockey country. Let's face it. Although rather than our history of being baseball or football, it's really maybe we're just becoming more of a hockey country.
Maybe we're a hockey country.
We shall see. So Gabby, let's talk about some of the pressure that they very well could have experienced, because as you said, going back to the prior Olympics 2022, they win silver, great accomplishment. And it's natural then to walk away from a second place finish and feel at least a little bit of like, okay, we need to take the next step.
Right.
Like, we should take the next step. We should be able to get over the hump, like that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. So like, what's some of the burden that becomes, heavy for the person who's thinking those types of thoughts of like, man, we should take the next step. We need to get over the hump. What does that do to us?
Well, I think it goes back to you have athletes on this team who have been there. They have, been on that podium and gotten that silver medal, and they come back with not only this mentality of, oh, I should I should come back and get that gold this year. I should be one spot higher. And that's the pressure of expectations. That's the pressure of, I need to do better than I previously did.
Yeah.
And different from the men's, like, this is, okay, we know we have the skill. We've been here before, but we didn't get it last time. And now, we've got to show up differently. So
Right.
how do you avoid complacency or showing up and getting that silver again and leaving still wanting more?
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you continue to train and ultimately show up in Milan to compete and not have this mentality of like, man, we really need to do it this time? Because it's the moment you shift into that gear and allow your thoughts to kind of go in that direction of like what I need to do or what I should do, you've just created some of your own interference. You have more than likely kind of like elevated your heart rate, put your mind into a place that's not real helpful for you.
Yeah.
And you've added to what's already in place as far as the challenge goes.
Right.
So it's not easy to win a gold medal.
No.
I mean, ask me how many I've won in my career, right?
How many?
None yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you
None
go.
to date. None to date. And I feel like with each passing day, my window's probably closing a little more and more. But I can tell you, having worked with a ton of people at high levels and some former Olympians, like the moment you add to the challenge, you really put yourself in a position of weakness, because it's extremely hard to get it done, even if you're thinking all the right things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you said, even if you're thinking all the right things, the moment you switch your thinking to, what should I be doing? What do I need to do? It becomes less about the process. It becomes less about your skills and trusting that you can go out there and just perform and compete. And it becomes about all of the expectations.
Right. So, there are challenges that come along with both of these. I think on the men's side, they're a big underdog. They got to the finals. And then if you're not careful, as you get to that gold medal game, you get a little bit overwhelmed with like, man, we better not squander this opportunity. We better not screw this up. Those are common thoughts that can creep in. And then on the women's side, we're in the gold medal game of like, remember, like we really need to take the next step.
Yeah.
Like we should get it done this time. We came up short last time. This is our time.
Yeah.
And it's like, be careful with that, because really none of those thoughts are productive.
Yeah.
But I think bottom line, hey, it feels great to see the U.S. win the gold medal in both men's and women's hockey. So let's pivot a little bit here, Gabby, and we're keeping on this theme of the Olympics, but let's go in kind of this direction of where we just were, of talking about kind of the medal count and how everything went. There were 116 medal events that occurred. Don't ask me to name them all, but what that means then is you had 116 examples of someone finishing in fourth place.
Yeah.
Which means what? What's the significance of finishing fourth?
It means that you did not get on that podium just by a hair. So you, not only did you, lose, if you will, but you lost so marginally that you were so close. You consider like a 7th, 8th place finish compared to a 4th, you were right there.
Yeah.
And that stings way more.
Right. And so like let's break down a little bit and think about the differences between certain discrepancies in the Olympics. Now, what I'm sure is an extremely heartbreaking discrepancy to experience is to be second, right? It's like, man, I was one, place away from being the best in the world at something. Heartbreaking, I'm sure.
Right.
And there's research on this, right? And so then but what's the research say about the silver medalists versus the bronze medalists?
Yeah. So the bronze medalists are oftentimes happier than silver medalists for the exact reason that you're explaining, and that when you get a medal in general, that should be outstanding. You are one of the top athletes in the world,
right,
in your domain, top 3. As a bronze, you're like, okay, great, I made top 3. Silver, now you're excited because you got a medal, so you got second place, but human minds
haunts you.
I mean, that is haunting.
Yeah.
You think I was one away.
Yep. And the data on this is very clear, and it's going to be a little challenging to articulate this over an audio clip without being able to see the visual, but they've done long-term health outcome studies on Olympians. Mm-hmm. What we see in that data is that gold medal and bronze medal winners, if you track them over the long haul, they live longer and they experience better overall health outcomes, particularly as they age and get into those, their 60s and common age where we begin to really deteriorate physically and mentally and emotionally and have a lot of health problems, which is normal. Silver medalists, unfortunately, they tend to trend very much in line with the general population, which is a significant finding because, what you would expect from Olympic athletes from a health outcome standpoint would be pretty different than the general population. I mean, keep in mind, who is the general population? Everybody else.
Right.
People who smoke cigarettes for 30, 40 years, people who are obese, people who have all kinds of medical problems, some of which they kind of created for themselves. Mm-hmm. But to think that over the long haul, silver medalists' outcomes aren't better than the general population. And so, of course, people then begin to ask, well, why in the world is that?
Right.
And most of the working theories all point back to the degree of disappointment and heartache and depression and just the letdown in their mind of being, as they say, right, kind of like one step away.
Right.
It haunts them.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, but that is a shocking finding there.
It's sad.
Yeah.
Why are the gold medalists and the bronze medalists better off, happier? Because if I'm the gold one's pretty obvious, right? I'm the best in the world.
Right.
And the bronze medalists are just so happy to be on the podium.
Right.
Because they're one step away from the people we're about to talk about who's in fourth. Mm-hmm. So you think about the discrepancy of if I finish in fourth, what does that mean? It means if I stick around for the ceremony of some type, there are 3 people on a podium. Everyone's paying attention to them. They're on TV. They're playing the winner's national anthem. Mm-hmm. There's a medal around there. It's just such a place of honor.
Right.
And if I finish in fourth, I might have already left.
Right. You're not on the screen. Maybe a little picture of you with, where you placed in the lineup.
Maybe at best. At best. No one knows my name. No one's going to be talking about me in the days and months and weeks and years, that are ahead. It's just a place of complete anonymity oftentimes. Right.
Yeah.
So what do we do with that? What are those people, Gabby? I mean, for those men and those women who, despite their efforts and sacrifice and work, find themselves in that spot, what are some of the things that pop up in the considerations that must be made for these folks?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is we always talk about the significance of outcomes and how that's oftentimes tied to our identity, especially in sport. As an elite athlete and Olympian, oftentimes your identity is who you are in sport. And it's hard to separate the two. You wouldn't have gotten to this level without it. So then one of the challenges that these individuals encounter is, well, I got fourth. I'm a nobody in my sport now. Yep. And it becomes their identity. And that's a challenge that they have to overcome, learning to not tie that outcome to who they are, or let it define them. And like you said, if you spend 4 years preparing for this, to then just miss by tenths of a second or a tenth of a hundredth. Yeah. I mean, that's hard.
Oh my gosh, it's crushing. And I have worked with Olympic athletes in the past, some of which who won medals, some of which who didn't win anything. Mm-hmm. And, you'll hear language, and we talk about it not just in sports, but really in many ways in life. We'll say things like this: hey, your sport or your job or whatever it isn't who you are, it's what you do. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, do I believe in that philosophically? Of course I do.
Right.
Of course I do. Here's where it gets tough. Here's the tension for me. If you're an Olympic level athlete and you spend the better part of 4 years training 6, 7, 8, 9 hours a day
Yeah.
You dedicate your entire life to this. You move away from your family for this.
Mm-hmm.
We can sit here all day long and say, it's not who you are, it's what you do. The reality is it's also who you are.
It is. Yeah, it is.
I mean, it just is.
Yeah.
And that's why when it doesn't go your way, and if it's this close, to your point, Gabby, finding a way to not allow your identity to be completely overwhelmed, which is disappointment, is extremely hard.
Extremely hard. And then, we also see this aspect of athletes can sometimes lose sight of the value in the process when they come that close but come up short.
Yeah. For sure.
You've put in all this work, all this time, these years, like you said, these sacrifices you've made. And then you're faced with falling short, and now a decision of, do I dedicate another 4 years of my life to this and try again? The process didn't work this time, and I put my everything into it.
Yeah.
So you almost lose faith in your process.
Which is so dangerous, because sometimes the reason you didn't win is because they're just better than you.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with your process.
Nothing to do with your process. Sometimes you didn't win because the ball didn't bounce your way. The wind kicked up at the wrong time, you name it.
There's so many uncontrollables.
Yeah. Yeah. And then let's think about this too, because, and here's there's a lot of unfortunate components to this reality and even in this conversation, but, people who finish fourth are almost always more unhappy than those who finish 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. Talk about that a little bit.
It's kind of what we were saying is you come so close and the disappointment becomes that much greater.
Yeah.
There's this, what we call counterfactual thinking that occurs where you become hyper-focused on if I could have just perfected that one moment, maybe I would have been there.
Yeah.
Because you were at that line, you can touch it, you can feel it, you came so close. So you just start going in your mind as to what was the one misstep I made that prevented me.
Yeah.
We talked about the identity threat and how that plays in here. But something I think also is the invisible achievement. You become invisible. Nobody talks about your performance.
Right.
It may have been outstanding. Just so happens that 3 other people were also outstanding and marginally better.
Yep. Yeah, and think about the irony of this too, because this is why the Olympics are such an outlier and an anomaly in many respects. If whatever you do in life, if there was a documented way to establish that you were the 4th best in the world at whatever it is you do,
right?
Do you know how most people would celebrate that?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, hey, we have this whole formal process we go through. And at the end, we've decided that you're the 4th best in the world, insert whatever.
Right.
In almost every other example in the world, people would be ecstatic.
Right.
They'd be thrilled to be the 4th best heart surgeon, the 4th best, high school math teacher, whatever it is. They would be on cloud 9. Yeah. But in this example, they're devastated.
And
unfortunately, we just lose sight of the fact that what they've accomplished because of the context that it's in feels like a complete loss, a complete miss, when in reality, it's an incredible achievement.
Yeah. And that's what happens when you incorporate these types of rewards into it, right? Like these 3 individuals get medals.
Yeah,
and these 3 individuals get the recognition. But then to your point, if you were top 10 in anything,
yeah.
I mean, you're like, yes, amazing.
Right.
But when you get it reduced to just the top 3,
right,
it becomes that much harder.
I had a conversation just last week with a gentleman who was top 10 salesperson in his company for 2025. And he couldn't have been happier.
Yeah.
And this is one company in one industry, in one country in the world. And he could not have been happier.
Right. But the same goes there, where I'm sure that whoever was the 2nd best salesperson, even though they were top 10.
He wasn't the best.
Yeah, exactly.
He was just top 10.
Yeah.
Right. And he's just that happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's it's unfortunate that it shakes out this way. And it's just a really tough place to be for these athletes.
It is.
So, Gabby, let's hit this too on this topic. How do you move forward? How do these athletes move forward?
Yeah, well, there's a process here where you have to almost grieve it. You have to acknowledge the disappointment. Don't try to bury it or push it away. Acknowledgement is going to be the first step here in moving past it and gaining some resilience. Then what we talked about, really being able to separate yourself from the outcome of it. Just because you placed fourth does not mean you are not one of the best. You still are.
Right.
And then reflect, gain some lessons, learn from the individuals ahead of you in that lineup. What did they do better? What could I do better 4 years from now if I choose to come back? And we always talk about, learning from mistakes or learning from failures. And fourth place is not a failure, but to these athletes, it feels like it.
Yeah, it definitely does.
So yeah, learning from the failure and then recommit to the process. Like we said, it's not that your process failed you. There are so many other factors at play here. So continue with your process. If you still want to try again in 4 more years, recommit. It takes just as much effort and work as it did leading up to this one to come back and do even better. So it's I think that's really the process, is acknowledge the disappointment, separate yourself from the outcome, learn and grow from it.
Yep. And in the midst of all that, I agree with all those points. Be able to see the achievement.
Yeah.
Be able to see the many, many, many things you did right to be in that position. And then I always go back to, I'm sure many of our listeners are familiar with the great Man in the Arena. The Man in the Arena fits so well right here. Although, hey, you didn't get on that podium, you were in the arena.
You were in the arena.
You were doing something that almost every other human in the world wasn't doing. And you've already won, in a sense. And I know that might feel like, a softening in a sense of the challenge. And that's not what that is at all. It's just a healthy recognition of what's really at play there and the difficulty involved in what we're talking about, and the fact that you frankly just won't make it if you're not able to go back and assess what was really happening there and celebrate the opportunity, celebrate the effort, the fight, all of that stuff. You've got to be able to do that as a performer, or else you just won't make it.
Yeah. That's a great addition there, because you do have to recognize how great you are to have come to that point, to have made it to the Olympics at all, to made it to the arena. That is in and of itself an accomplishment.
Yep. It also really presses on our internal and personal notions and definitions of success. And what does that word mean to you? We've talked about that many, many times on the Growth Project, but it's something that all of us need to have a great feel for, and frankly, have it written down somewhere of like, what is my definition of success? And I've got to be able to step to the starting line day in and day out, whatever that might be for me in my life, and know what success means and looks like. And if I really just constrain it to, I got to end up on the podium, it's too tough, right? It's too narrow. It's too unfair to the challenge that I've signed up for.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know we need to kind of move to a close here, Gabby. Closing thoughts from you on the kind of the Olympics, and as we wind it down, it's going to be 2 years before it comes up again. So get it while you can.
No, I just think that it's always amazing to see what these athletes do at the Olympics, and the mentalities they show up with, the mindsets, and we can just learn so much from them in all of our lives. And so if you haven't watched any of it, I encourage you to go back, watch some of the clips that we've referenced, because these athletes are impressive. Go watch some of the fourth place contenders compete and see how they did, because you will be just as impressed.
And hey, it's never too early to start hyping up LA Summer Olympics.
Oh my gosh.
I think we talked about that in our first time we started breaking the Olympics down a couple weeks ago. We're both more summer people.
We are.
Although the winter delivered. Hey,
it did.
It was awesome. But to think that the Summer Olympics in 28, I guess, are going to be on American soil,
right,
is going to be amazing.
Yeah. I am excited for it. I think it's going to really bring a lot of Americans into the world of the Olympics that maybe aren't as interested as they have been in the past.
Yeah, I would agree.
It'll be fascinating to see how that plays out. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and it will bring even more traffic to LA if that's possible.
Yeah,
if that's somehow possible. Awesome. Well, thank you for tuning in. We always appreciate the opportunity to spend time with our listeners and hopefully add value and resources to your life. Always welcome your feedback through both Spotify and Apple Podcast, iTunes. Looking forward to our next conversation here real soon. Take care.
Take care.